Are you ready?
I guess.
You guys. Erin, this is from Bob.
Uh-huh.
This is not fair. They were screened.
That is not fair.
Well, actually, they were just placed in some sort of random order. I'm sorry. Erin, this is from Bob, and Bob asks a question to which you may pass. What's the baby's name going to be?
You'll find out in August.
Yay! Thank you for that answer. Here's why you say that, because when I told my mother-in-law the name of our second daughter before she was born, I could see her face just drop. I never, ever tell anybody the name before the baby's born.
No.
Good answer.
Yeah.
All right, here's a ministerial question.
Okay.
From Ann Mowry, she asked, what is the minister's role in pastoral care to the congregation?
That is an alive question in this church, isn't it?
It sure is.
It sure is. I think it's something, I don't have a clear answer on that. It's hard to figure out with 2 ministers and over 500 members how it can't just be the minister. It has to be a team of people that we're caring for one another. So I think that but I know there is longing for more ministerial engagement in pastoral care. So I think I know that you've been holding forums and people have been gathering together to talk about. So I think we'll have to live into that question and keep having forums and discussions to figure out how can we really care for one another. In a church this size, I don't think it's just around pastoral care. In fact, I think at the social justice empowerment retreat that we did this winter, the conversation came up that, I'm not involved in every social justice group in this church, and I shouldn't be, or we will bottleneck the efforts that we can actually do. I want to unleash our capacity for goodness, not have everything under my control or my thumb. And so in a church this size, it's commonly thought of that the lay leaders are lay ministers, that they are providing the programming and the ministries that reach people in their lives so they can reflect and grow. And I just saw someone's filming. It just threw me off. It's okay. It's just unexpected. But so I think one of the things I've been thinking about is how do we equip then our lay leaders to see themselves as lay ministers? And because it came up in the social justice workshop, the people said, I'm just not entirely comfortable thinking of myself that way or creating that kind of space between us. And yet I think, so there are some of us who are going to be researching this next year, what different lay ministry trainings are going on at different churches so that we can equip each other, not just in social justice, but in our pastoral care, in small group ministry, in hospitality or membership, in all the different areas where we connect with one another, because you are the primary people you interact with. And so I think there's space for us to think a little differently about what that means.
Thank you. From Laura Berardi, how can we grow our collective participation in faith and action service projects?
I know why Laura's thinking about that. Laura's been a wonderful contributor on our Faith in Action coordinating team, the team that brought you the Faith in Action Day where we canceled the services and we went and did service projects throughout Des Moines last year, and also the continuing outreach partnerships that we do. So Tracy had a brilliant idea when we sat down to brainstorm this week, which was to create a family justice team that we begin to look at. I have a couple of books. I've been looking at ideas. How do we engage our youth and families? When I was interviewing here and brought in, and in my first year especially, I heard so many people saying, we want more opportunities for families and for youth to get beyond, especially some of our kids, if we happen to be in a middle class or an upper middle class setting, that our kids have a lot of financial comfort, that they don't understand the realities that many people face. And so I've heard parents say over and over, I want to engage my kids so that they can understand not everyone lives like we do. So Tracy had the great idea that why don't we invite then some parents to come together and to begin thinking about what are some ways that we can adapt some of our outreach partnerships or suggest different service projects so that we can engage more people. I also think in a church this size, or really in any size, people don't show up to things just because it's written in your order of service. They show up to things because they like someone who's going to be there, or they know someone, or someone's asked them to come. And so I think across the board, for engagement in any area of the church, it's going to take us actually talking to one another, not just putting something in the order of service and hoping that that's going to yield results. That's not how we build community.
JM, I don't know who that is. Could we have a guest Sunday where each brings a non-UU?
Why not?
Okay. Good
We'll have to
answer.
think about that more with worship and
All right,
how we could
Todd
speak to that.
Lackman's also curious about this child of yours.
So am I.
Will you be comfortable? We will be comfortable, of course, having your child experience UU religious education, and will they attend church with you?
So this is a live question in our house. My husband is Jewish, and so we are regularly having conversations ever since even we got married. We took an interfaith couples class, trying to figure out how we're going to speak to both of our ways of making meaning. And the good thing is, as a Jewish man, we share a lot in common in our theology. So there's not a lot of challenge. We've just got to figure out how to not saturate this child with religious opportunity. I hope that my child will be here, but that will also require my husband to want to be here. So we'll see what will come on that front.
Wait for it.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, we're all waiting for it. Charlotte Shivers asks, why did you enter ministry? Now, you only have so much time, Erin.
I know.
Just saying.
I know. Well, some of you may have heard some of this before in a sermon I gave when I first came here. I've always been called into the work of justice, having experienced myself times when systems were broken, where I experienced great pain in my life. I know what it means to be someone who is disadvantaged by and hurt by broken systems. And so I've always been called into the work of trying to fix systems so that people's lives matter and that they're cared for. So I went into college to become a civil rights lawyer because I was going to punish all of those people who were doing wrong. I was going to punish people who were racist or sexist or homophobic or any of those things. And then I sat in a class, in my women's studies class at the University of Illinois, and the teaching assistant came out as a lesbian, and in my head I said, but she's so normal. And I was horrified, and I realized that it's not something you can just punish in other people. We've all been socialized to carry around different ways of understanding people's identities, and that it's not a simple technical fix. It's much deeper. And how do we perpetuate the ways that we view one another? And so I became much more interested in uncovering my own biases and coming to understand the way that I've been socialized, and realizing how much I didn't know. So I started working at homeless shelters and domestic violence agencies, and after college I was a community educator at a rape crisis center, and I just wanted to encounter real people and not just learn about them from TV or the media or books, but to try to engage across wide diversity. And I had a moment at a stoplight while I was working at the rape crisis center where I normally don't see people in their cars. I just see cars that are in my way. And at this particular stoplight, after reciting the statistics every day for months and months, that 1 in 3 women will experience sexual assault of some sort in her lifetime, and 1 in 4 men, and that the vast majority of these assaults or violations will occur before the age of 12, I looked around at the people in their cars and my heart just broke, and I thought, these are the people in the cars around me. No wonder our society is so broken. When we've had such painful violations at such a young age, how do we trust one another? How do we come to feel safe and engaged in our communities? And it shifted my whole, so I feel like over time my perspective has kept deepening and deepening around this question of what's the nature of humanity, and how do I be, we have so many resources, we have so much capacity. I have so many resources, I have so much capacity, yet I fail on my aspirations all of the time. So what can we do to actually support one another, to be more of who we want to be, to help there be more healing. So it became more of a spiritual focus for me. And so for me, this call to do social justice work and ministry was just perfect for me, because I don't think we can get to just changing systems without also engaging us as whole people and addressing the many layers of complexity that exist around how we just live in community with one another.
So let's take that broad concept that brought you to us and answer Sally's question. What's the one thing you most hope for in our shared justice ministry?
Well, Sally, would you like me to draw from one of my 5 pages of notes that I drew up? Yeah, I don't know who thought question box was a great idea as a minister. Show up and speak in front of a whole bunch of people off the cuff. So that was one of the things I thought about. So actually, to be concise.
One thing.
No.
One thing.
No.
One thing.
I'm sorry, I don't hear you. I'm having a hard time hearing. It must be this baby.
One thing.
There are.
I dare you.
You dare me? Okay, I can be this queen of segues. I think in our social justice work, so we had the empowerment retreat this winter, and I really wanted to know, what do we want to galvanize around? Because I just see that there is power in this institution. We have 500 people. How do we leverage those connections to have an impact on in our community? So what is the issue we want to focus on? And every time I've raised that in my 2 years here, almost every time, the response I get is people are just like disconnected with that notion. And so I left that retreat thinking, what am I missing? What, if I'm getting resistance in so many areas, then what is that saying about what the actual next steps are? And I think I actually was very proud of myself. I counseled myself to be patient, that I think we can't galvanize ourselves to really leverage the power of our institution until we've strengthened our capacity. So right now, I know we have a lot of amazing leaders in social justice, but I think we're too comfortable. I think we rely on them too much. And I think that we, and I know for me, I learn from them all the time, and it can feel like the bar is really high to be excellent. But you just got to step forward and take some risks. And we have some new folks stepping in to do that in our social justice ministry. But I think it will benefit us greatly to invite new people in, to expand our leadership base, and to build our relationships with one another. I think we can't actually think about doing anything new until there are more people engaged and we have more of a sense of relational connection with one another. That it's not just a meeting you're going to, but it's your community and the people you care about who are engaging in something you share a passion around. And once we have more trust in our connectedness with one another and the procedures and ways we're going to organize, that balance between, religious calling and organized institution, once we figure some of that out, I think it's going to be a no-brainer. And it's going to be so simple for us to take big, bold steps together. But for now, I think we need to go back to some of the basics of organizing and build more relationships and strengthen them. Mm-hmm.
Dave asks, could our new member process and also our Sunday services include more about the history of our own congregation? I can answer that.
Yes, probably.
Yeah, and it does. It does include that. It's actually in the literature we hand out in A Conversation in Pathways.
I've been told you have to sneak history in, that no one will come to a service about you history.
What most surprised you about being the lead minister during Mark's sabbatical? From Heidi.
Yeah, I underestimated how significant of a shift that would be. Of being a coordinating leader of more teams. Some of the greatest gifts have been the relationships that I've been able to build. So primarily focused in social justice, I only really interact with those of you who are already interested in that. I've been trying to expand to build relationships more broadly, but a real gift has been getting to know more of you and preaching more often, so you might get to develop more of a relationship with me through services. But also the fact that I've been able to work, the sabbatical management team has been a real gift. I've been able to work with Deb Desert in the back, who is our Director of Finance and Administration, and Tracy Beck, our religious educator, Director of Religious Education. It's given us the chance to collaborate and work and understand each other and learn more about our various areas, and that's been a wonderful gift.
Thank you. Kathleen asks, I understand we will participate in the Family Promise program starting this fall. How was this decided, and how are these expenses reflected in the budget?
Stealing our thunder, that's going to be announced at the annual meeting.
Okay. You want to just leave it for the end? I dare you to come to the annual meeting.
Yeah.
Come on, you can do it.
Sue Huber is actually going to be speaking to those questions.
All right. This is from Franco Berardi. What's next for our church when it comes to Black Lives Matters?
So the primary effort that the folks engaged in social justice have been working on, we're engaged in AMIS, which is a Mid-Iowa organizing strategy, which is 32 different member institutions in Des Moines who are working together to create change in Des Moines. And so our juvenile justice team in AMIS, we've been engaged in trying to create a restorative justice center. So we have found that, as you probably know if you've been in services here this year, that Iowa has one of the top 3 highest rates of the disproportionate incarceration of African Americans in the nation. We rotate among the top 3 slots. And of all the lists you will see of what Des Moines is great for, we don't seem to acknowledge that one very often. So there are collective efforts to try to keep youth out of going into the juvenile justice system, so that, because it's one of the greatest indicators for then their continuation into it as adults. So we are trying to create a restorative justice center, so there are alternatives for youth who are acting out. You may have also heard people in our church talk about trauma-informed care, which is understanding that many times when people are acting out, what might be going on in their lives, and is it really the best way to respond to just lock them up? Will that really speak to the issues that are present in their lives? So there are going to be a lot of efforts. We have 2 teams organizing in this church. One, to understand restorative justice and that we can start practicing it, so that when the time comes for us to show up as a congregation and put pressure on funding sources and different other institutions in town, so that we can really push for this a sustainable and impactful restorative justice center to exist, that you will know something about it and care about it and be willing to show up. So that's a primary focus for us right now.
There's a question for me. You want to take a break?
Sure.
Angela. She asks, Linda Barnes, please speak to your journey and motivation that led you from research lab to teaching to the ministry. All right, here's the short version. Are you ready? I studied molecular biology, genetic engineering at Iowa State University. It was really great and amazing and awesome. And halfway through my PhD program, I was like, what are we using this for? And I'm like, who's funding my research? And then I'm like, I can't do this. So I told my husband, and he's like, you were supposed to earn the money. So I said, okay, I'll finish the degree, and I loved to teach. And for 20 years, I taught. And actually, Angela was one of my students. And then after 8-9 years teaching, I worked in sustainable agriculture, and that was my call to justice, my call to environmental justice. And I found myself being more and more deeply connected, not only to this earth and how it works and the great miracle that is the spirit of life. And I found myself being deeper and deeper in connection with my students and having greater compassion. And I found a voice, and here I am. There's the short version.
Maybe one more?
All right. I'm gonna, I don't know what to do with this one. Ray. I'll give you the short version. And then we can do one more if you want it. Why is there evil in the world? You You can pass. No, no. Why is there evil in the world?
In the world.
That's an easy one, because we could just do a whole class in seminary on that again and again and again.
The question I ask myself is why do some of my actions, when are my actions self-centered or so fear-based, and what is going on that I struggle in my own self, instead of just putting it out there, but what goes on within me when I strive so hard to be self-aware and to come from a place of love, how often I see myself not do that. And then I think and I have my needs met, and I'm in a safe home with a loving husband, I have caring friends, I have a wonderful job. I mean, I have health, I have so many gifts in my life, and yet I still struggle some days to just say something in a nice voice when I get worked up. And so I just think, if I have the struggle to be the kind of person I want to be, how is it not obvious? How much more complicated and hard is it for people who are not safe? Often the thing that gets my brain to react, I think I'm learning a lot from trauma-informed care and how trauma works in our brains, that, the front part of our brain shuts down, the frontal lobe, that higher executive processing, when we are flooded with danger or a sense of survival, and how often people actually have that going on in their lives, and why then it's so important to foster compassion and to try to de-escalate things so that we can be more resourceful. So I really do think trying to be the change, that you want to see in the world is hard, is really hard. And then how can we be forgiving and have compassion with one another?
Thank you. Please join me in thanking Erin for her thoughtful and her risk-taking in answering your questions here today.
Thank you for your questions.